If you are the strong one, the reliable one, the one that everyone can count on, and you are exhausted, but somehow still performing, this is for you. Because I'm about to say something that might annoy you a little. You are not burnt out because you're incapable. You're exhausted because you have a reflex and it's been running your life for years. Let me paint the picture. You don't drop the ball. You track the ball. You label the ball. You anticipate which balls might collide midair and quietly reposition them. You see 3 steps ahead. And at work, you fix problems before they escalate. At home, you sense tension before anyone names it. And in relationships, you manage the emotional weather system. You are wildly competent and consistently bracing. But because you're competent, no one questions it. They call you exceptional, and you call it Tuesday. Here's what most people miss. Overfunctioning doesn't look chaotic. It looks impressive. It looks organized. It looks like leadership. That's why it's so hard to detect. If you were falling apart publicly, we'd call it burnout. But you're not falling apart. You're white knuckling it quietly. That's a very different aesthetic. Now, here's where we get honest. Your nervous system is not calm, it's efficient. And that's not the same thing. Efficiency can absolutely run on adrenaline, on vigilance, on low grade urgency. You can be crushing your KPIs and still be operating like a smoke alarm that thinks toast is a 5 alarm fire. And your body doesn't care that the threat is a Slack notification, a delayed email response, a slightly disappointed facial expression, or even if it's someone just doing something 70% as well as you would have. The threat is a threat. So your system mobilizes again and again and again. This isn't about how much you do. It's about how you automatically step in. That reflex, that moment something feels unstable. You stabilize it before being asked, before deciding, before checking to see if it's even yours. You deploy like an elite emergency response unit. Except the emergencies are mildly inefficient adults, and occasionally your own expectations. This reflex did not appear randomly. It was trained. Maybe you were the eldest daughter. Maybe you were emotionally mature one in your family. Maybe chaos was happening around you. And you learned very early.
If I hold it together, we're safe.
Competence became safety. Reliability became identity. And identity level patterns are powerful because they feel like this is who I am. You say, I have high standards. And yes, you do. And also, you have shoulders near your ears, your jaw is tight, your weekends are designated recovery zones, and you occasionally fantasize about disappearing into a cabin with no Wi Fi. But sure, high standards. Here's something I really want you to hear. You are not exhausted because you're weak. You are exhausted because your body thinks it has to carry everything. And it's been doing that for years. Bracing is expensive. It consumes metabolic energy. It keeps stress hormones slightly elevated. It fragments your sleep. It reduces your emotional bandwidth. It narrows your strategic thinking. So you might be still performing well, but you're performing from constriction. And over time, constriction costs you. Now, here's where high achieving women get tripped up. You think,
If I slow down, everything everything will collapse.
Let's gently interrogate that. Is that true? Or is that your reflex talking? Because when your system is wired for over responsibility, it overestimates collapse risk. It scans for what could go wrong. It assumes that you are the final line of defense. And it feels noble, responsible, even necessary. But ask yourself, are you truly the only competent adult in every room you enter? Or has your reflex simply never allowed anyone else to fully step up? Uncomfortable question, isn't it? I know. And you're welcome. Overfunctioning often hides resentment. Not loud resentment, quiet resentment. The kind that sounds like, why am I the only one who sees this? Why do I have to explain everything? Why does it feel like I'm parenting grown adults? That resentment isn't because you're mean, it's because you're overextended. And your system knows it, even if your identity won't admit it. Here's the irony: the more competent you are, the more the world will give you to hold because you can handle it. So your capacity increases, but also your reflex scales with it. You don't just carry your role, you carry the emotional tone, the relational glue, the invisible layer, the anticipatory problem solving. And then you tell yourself, this is leadership. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just bracing with a better work title. This is where return comes in. Return. RETURN. It's a method I made to interrupt my reflexive overfunctioning. That moment when someone asks for help, or a deadline gets moved up, or a team member drops the ball, or that school email that comes in at 9:42 p.m. That moment between a request and me automatically responding. The first step is R, for recognizing the reflex. Don't shame it. Don't bulldoze it. Don't suddenly become someone who doesn't care. Recognize it. Start noticing, when does that urgency spike in your body? When do you intervene without being asked? When do you assume responsibility automatically? And lastly, when do you feel anxious when someone else is struggling? And that last one is big because sometimes growth requires discomfort, but your reflex cannot tolerate discomfort, so it rescues. Recognition creates choice. Right now, most of this is happening below your awareness. Your body mobilizes before your mind votes. Once you can see it, you can interrupt it. But you can't interrupt what you refuse to acknowledge. And high capacity women are very good at intellectualizing instead of acknowledging. We'll analyze the pattern. We'll optimize the calendar. We'll color code the burnout. But we won't admit
I don't feel safe unless I'm holding everything.
that's the deeper level. And that's what we're going to unwind during this series. Over the next 4 videos, I'm going to walk you through the full return method. We've already gone through R, so the next one would be E. Exhale the urgency in real time. T. Tell the truth about what actually is yours. U. Understand the cost of staying in this pattern. R. Reclaim your position as a steady leader. And N. Navigate aligned action without collapsing your standards. This is not about doing less. It's about bracing less. That's a very different energy. You can be powerful without being clenched. You can be decisive without being hypervigilant. You can be reliable without being the emotional shock absorber for everyone in your life. I promise. If you're watching this and thinking, oh, that's me, comment the word return below. Not because I'm begging for engagement. We don't do begging here. But because naming your pattern is powerful, and because it tells the algorithm exactly who this is for. High capacity women who are done white knuckling their lives. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to interrupt your urgency in under 3 minutes. Not with a bubble bath, not just with thinking positive, with a nervous system recalibration that works in a boardroom. And yes, you can do it without anybody noticing. I'll see you there. Bye-bye.